clear for takeoff.
Good morning, one and all. This is the Kings of the Heart podcast. My name is Tyreek Omari Walton, and we are here on this planet to try to help save relationships. And to help me do that, as always, I have my partner in crime, my brother, Dr. John Hart. Dr. Hart, how you feeling, sir? How you feeling?
Feeling good. Feeling great. It's always great to be here. It's good to see you, brother.
Good to be here with you. And we have a special guest today. She is a matchmaker supreme and also a social worker. Please let's welcome to the show, Ms. G, Gwendolyn G, the matchmaker Sanders. What's up, G? Uh-oh. Oh, G, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, G. Oh, now you can.
And unfortunately, I think that might be the plan.
Uh-oh.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, you keep going in and out. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, your mic keeps going in and out.
And so I can hear you clearly. I'll try again. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1.
Yeah, you were fine before. I don't know what happened, but for some reason right now your mic isn't steady. It's like he was going in and out.
So I can see like the little mic check.
Okay. Yeah, now you're clear.
Now I'm clear.
Now you're clear. Let's go for it from there.
Okay, so maybe I just need to be closer.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Hey, so G, glad to have you here. You are, like I said, a matchmaker, but not only a matchmaker, you are also an author. You have a book that I read that I bought like syndicate. Your first book, right?
It is my first book.
And it is nonfiction. It is about your life and your search to find the man of your dreams. Tell us a little bit about that book.
And it is a little bit of a rites of passage.
True.
Actually worked with a really amazing writing coach, ironically, Corinne Steffens, where I had the opportunity to really learn a lot about myself and a lot about what I wanted to share in my journey. And she basically helped me to understand that in my search to find my James Evans, and James Evans, for people who would like to know, yes, I'm talking about the character from Good Times.
Good Times, right.
He was my first crush. She helped me to realize why James Evans was my first crush. And it had a lot to do with his archetype. That wasn't really like, obviously, he was impoverished. Obviously, he was older than me because I was a child when I was watching him. But it was more so what he represented. So the journey really starts from how he became my first crush to what are some of the values that I really like aligned with and was drawn to about him, and what that origin came from, which was my father, which was my brother, which was ultimately my now husband, and all the men that was in between.
Yeah, and that's one thing I love about the book, how revealing and how vulnerable you are. You mean you really open up about all your dating situations, the things that you were doing, how it impacted your son, and then ultimately to get where you were. And the thing that I was really curious about, how much of that story led you into becoming a matchmaker?
And again, that's why I said I think having the college, it was almost like writing coach / writing therapy. So I started becoming a matchmaker when I was single.
Right.
And
Okay.
I was in actually, your fellow alum university and studying sociology. And in doing that, being single at that time, it was just like me kind of figuring out my own journey.
Right.
A lot of the book really kind of goes into like, again, what I was looking for, but it also kind of doesn't really maybe touch specifically on how I became a matchmaker. But it does all tie together to say that although I'm married now and happy that I found my James Evans, the journey was really more so about finding myself. And that started. Louis State in the sociological department and really kind of figuring out how to date online.
Yeah. Yeah. And tell us about that part of it too. We had on the show about a month ago, actually more than a month ago
Yeah,
now.
yeah, more than a
Um,
month ago
yeah, been
now.
about
Yeah.
2 months, right?
Mhm.
Erica Etten of A Little Nudge.
Yes.
Yeah, she came on and we talked about her process of helping people just get good profiles online and how to move from being online and meeting online into their first dates and how she really helps organize that whole journey. For you, where does the process start with your
So
clients?
if you can imagine, happily 53 years old. Actually, my birthday just passed.
Happy belated?
Happy belated.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. So, but when I was dating, and on my kind of, I would say, effective dating journey, I was in my mid 30s. And
Mm,
so
Mm.
at that time, for a person like myself, dating online was like a non starter. Because if you can imagine, I'm talking about Black Planet, I'm talking about MySpace, I'm talking about,
Oh, wow.
oh, I remember.
Wow, I remember those.
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember.
Hinge and Bumble and, Match.com. I am
Mhm.
talking about old school, just getting started. Um,
Right.
even further back, you can go back to Craigslist because what a lot of people don't understand that online dating really kind of branches off from a place of when we used to do the romantic dating searches in regular like newspapers.
Right. True.
Yeah.
How
Yep.
you
That's true.
be able to find love in a newspaper, and you would basically type up an ad. So for a person like myself to be like a half and half introvert extrovert, dating online was not something I was comfortable with. I definitely thought I was going to end up in somebody's trunk. So it was really like a journey to say like I'm gonna really meet random people in a computer and then meet them in person. So just branching out doing the project kind of gave me, I think, a foundation to say it wasn't random, it was orchestrated, and it was put into again a project of research, and it just happened to work for
Mm.
me.
Right. Right. And John, you have a similar story too, just in terms of getting online and searching for, doing online dating, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was. A lot of what G said really resonates, and it's hard because there's a lot of people overlook how many internal processes and thoughts and feelings you really do have to process when you jump on those platforms, right? And so, when G was talking, I really appreciated um, opening and expanding people's minds that this has been going on for some time now.
Hmm.
I think it's easy to ground ourselves and say like Match.com, Harmony, right? But G took us way back. I mean, she's right. Even dating back to even newspapers, people actually having to work with newspaper outlets, to create your story and put it out there. That's a different kind of vulnerability. And so G, one question I have for you is, I mean, how have things changed? I mean, when you take us way back to the newspapers and even dating services and platforms popping up, when you look at things now, what are some things that you've seen evolve for better or for worse?
One, I think, and I think you make such a great point. I love the fact that you added in the aspect of vulnerability. I think that's one of the blockers or hurdles.
Hmm.
Particularly, I would just say like my niche is Black people. Black.
Hmm.
So I openly say that my expertise falls in with people that look like me. And so
Sure.
ultimately, it has really been sometimes a real kind of embarrassment, a challenge,
Mm.
vulnerability to be able to say, let's go, like you said, way back and say, like, if they was putting themselves in a newspaper
Yep.
ad and just kind of putting your stuff out there in a hard stock piece of paper that people could hold.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Imagine putting your face on a profile and somebody can screenshot and say, like, oh,
Mm.
look at G out here on these streets and these
Right.
like, oh, she just dating. She didn't never mention to me that she was online. So I think the first hurdle is the vulnerability to really understand that you can simply not fall in love without the fall and the
Mm,
Mm.
vulnerability.
Mm.
So
Mm.
whatever that is available, you should really try to have a comprehensive, effective dating plan that absolutely should include online. So yeah, it has evolved in so many ways, and it
Mm.
algorithms and all these other aspects that are included, but it's still just it's a basic vulnerability and transparency to say yes, I am openly telling the world I am looking for love.
Mm.
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 What about people, people have to get past that. It's almost like being shy, right?
Hmm.
And putting themselves out there like that. So whether they're doing it online or they're reaching out to a matchmaker like you, what are some of the other hurdles for people to overcome to make that first step to not even date, but to find the right platform for them to
Mm.
find somebody?
Mm.
I think that also goes into, and I'm sure Erica gave a lot of good context, because she's Erica Etienne is the guru that I started to go to, because what people also don't understand is that it's not a magic wand. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
well, I don't want to be in a club, and I don't want to be, running all.
Right.
And in modern times, I ain't trying to catch COVID. So all the other things.
Right.
Speak on it.
So it's
That's-
like, I ain't going out to these places. So I'm just gonna go online and I'm just gonna see if I can find someone. And then you realize, oh, yeah, I don't know if I can curse. You're like, oh shit, like this is work. I
Mhm.
Mm.
all these profiles. I have to,
Yeah.
and I have a functional way of like screening through people. I have to follow up with these people. I have to type messages. I have to screen my pictures and make sure they're all the good angles. So I just think that ultimately that people will find that the search of love, whether you utilize online or you do organic dating, it is really never necessarily easy, but you really have to kind of keep the focus of saying, just like you wanted your degree, you wanted to get your house, you wanted to get that car,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
finding the right mate is going to be easy in a magic wand. And that's why the whole matchmaking thing sometimes we have to kind of dispel. I'm not Cupid. I don't have a bow. It's
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's work. Whether you utilize me, utilize a person like Erica Etienne, whether or not you do the work yourself, it is always going to be work.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good point. One of the things that when you were talking that came up, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Is there such a thing, especially nowadays, with the balancing online with the organic parts of dating? Right? Does that even exist? Are people even doing that?
I would say it's a definite shift, John. It's because what it is, people again believe until they actually do the work or get lost in what I call the rabbit hole. And so
Mm. What's the rabbit hole?
the rabbit hole is people who are maybe recently single. A lot of my clients were recently single. They were in their
Mm.
late 30s, early 40s, all the way up to
Mm.
55. So
Mm-hmm.
they were, and I say desperate in a good way, wanted to have
Sure.
a family, wanted to have a child, and they were like, okay, I got to do something different. Or they just lost their significant other.
Mm.
Widowers, I've had widows, I've had divorcees, I've had people who had long term relationships and broke up. So it's just the whole idea of basically like restarting. And so, of course, people want what
Mm.
they think is an easy pathway to just meet some people. And then they realize, like, wow, the world has changed. And if I've been in
Sure.
it for 20 years, and
Yeah.
the rabbit hole is all of a sudden you feel like, wow, look at all these people.
That access, right?
Let me
Yeah.
go candy jar. And they go deep into a rabbit hole of just dating and engaging in sex and just like not even having a criteria. And then when
Mm.
up the air, they realize, whoo, okay, that was fun. But now
Mhm.
I start to like really kind of create a plan.
Mhm.
Mm.
Well, tell me this because I hate like self promoting so much on our platform, but I came out with a book. It's just a damn date, 18 years ago. So I've been talking about this stuff for a very long time, and one of the things I've always talked about or kind of preached against was being so intentional on the actual date. Right? There's one thing to be intentional about your purpose and what you're doing, but bringing that into a date and kind of flooding your date with all of your desires and what it is that you're actually looking for can really turn people off. And I've always said that's not the purpose of the actual date. For you, when you start working with clients, how do you define dating for them? What is the purpose of a date? Why are they, well, let's just start there. What is the purpose of a date? How do you define dating to them?
Well, first and foremost, Tariq knows that I actually utilized him to like teach and preach. So you can definitely do your plug because actually I really believe in the aspect of I'm not a one stop shop.
Right.
And so
That's true.
my foundational dating program is, but then I want you to go to other experts from male to female, gentlemen to women who have a wealth of understanding about not just about love, but like loving yourself and getting preparation for dating. And particularly what I like to always say, effective dating. There's one thing about dating, you can just go out in these streets and you can meet someone and have sex and have fun. But
Mhm.
effective dating, that's a whole strategy, that's a process, that's a plan. And so, yes, Tariq was one of the people that helped me to help some of my clients understand, yeah, it is just a date initially. And actually, if you feel so inclined, you might want to just use Meetup, which is a part of what a lot of people utilize today to say, I don't believe that women or gentlemen should have these lofty expectations. I don't believe that gentlemen should be out here spending their last check on a first date. I
Word.
Absolutely.
Somebody outside at a park, at a coffee shop. I would say chivalry should say that if you can't pay for my one little Starbucks coffee cup and you want me to go Dutch on coffee, personally, that's be a person I wouldn't be interested in.
Right.
But I'm also not telling you to take me to Ruth Chris on a
Right.
meetup and
Right.
I see you and I walk away because I don't like what you look like. So I think that people should have manageable expectations. And if it helps you to use language, I would suggest meetups versus dates for your first interaction.
Right. John, I'm curious for you, when you started online dating, I don't know if, I mean, we've talked about it online before
Yeah.
and that's when you met your wife,
Yep.
my lovely sister.
Yeah.
Um, when you went online, what were your thoughts about intentionality around what you're trying to do or what you're trying to find?
I also think that the timing aspect of people's lives are interesting. So I know when I
Mhm.
started, I was in the throes of my dissertation. So if I'm going to be honest, like I wasn't hardcore. Like I need to find someone like that wasn't it. It's just the heavens above opened up, and I was able to find my wife actually very quickly, right? But I didn't have expectations for myself. That's just me, and so I'm really I heard about online dating. I said, let's give it a try. I also didn't have the availability. So
Yeah.
what was going on in my life, right? I'm in the heights of grad school. I'm working
Oh,
on
I
my
remember. I remember very clearly. We had
I'm
those conversations.
yeah, I'm fully consumed, right? And so, but it doesn't mean that I wasn't intentional in the back of my mind and inside my heart. Like I
Right.
understood that I wanted to find someone. So that was there, right? And it does take two, right? I mean, I wasn't hardcore on the platforms. I would check them and I would respond, but it really when I met my wife on it, we really hit it off pretty quickly. And to be honest and fair to the audience, I think that's when my level of interest picked up. Where I
Mhm.
said to myself, "Oh wow!" Like when I met my wife, just talking back and forth, I said to myself, like, wow, this is pretty convenient. So let me invest a little bit more. And I just want to uplift something. The reason why I'm sharing the story is G's absolutely right. And that is, um, I got to a place where once I got in, the criteria started to develop and my
Mhm.
intentionality picked up. So it's my story is based on, well, I wasn't going in full head, like I got to find someone, as G was alluding to, but it was an opportunity. Like online dating gave me an opportunity to now expose myself during a time where I was super unavailable. But once I got in and I started talking to women, and when I found my wife, then the criteria started to develop. Okay, John, based on where you are and what do you want and all of those things, right? Then it developed and things took off. And so I think timing is a big part of dating. I think
Yeah.
that's the true essence of what I'm bringing up. And because even when I met my wife, there's a joke in grad school, the PhD program, that your dissertation is your significant other, like that's your partner, like you eat, sleep, and breathe it. But then when
Right.
I met my wife, I was like, nah, like we gonna have to split time, like we got to split time, like she's that special. But I wouldn't have met my wife if it wasn't for those platforms, because I learned from other people who were actually very successful online. So
Mhm.
there's a lot there individually, systemically, regarding dating. And so I appreciate a lot of the things G underscored there, because that was very helpful. I know for me when I was going through it.
Mhm. And Gee, for you, how common is that kind of attitude with the people who are actually approaching you about matchmaking? Because John sounds like he took a very almost hands off hands-on approach to begin with and then became a lot more hands-on as he got
Yeah.
into it. But how common is that approach for your clients?
Well, and I think I love a lot of things that John said about the fact that the timing, which is something that we have somewhat control over, meaning because obviously John was talking about he's working through his dissertation program. And so
Mhm.
obviously, like I said, he's married to his, his
Right.
at this point. But then he did seem to have a like arm of saying, I also
Yep.
want to kind of explore a romantic goal because now I'm seeing the balance of my education is very important, which could impact my career, but having a strong person beside me could also impact my overall life.
Absolutely.
And
Mhm.
it wasn't like he was doing that intentional thought processing. But I think the part, even for me, when I did my sociological project, which Tariq has heard this story 1,000 times, being a single woman in my mid to early 30s, and also I was a single mother. So, like John, like most, I had another responsibility besides dating, but also
Mhm.
longing to date and date in an effective way. So, the sociological project helped me to kind of really kind of dive into the fact of I've got to do something different. I want to do something a little bit more out there to kind of see what is out there besides what's in my small circle. And so within 45 days, I went out with 75 men.
I
And
remember that.
75 men, one of them ended up becoming my husband. But when you go back to John's point about timing, then that's the part also that people have to understand.
Absolutely.
Bond. So timing is going to be a part of the orchestration of the comprehensive dating because you have to have like a goal of what are you dating for. You have to have an understanding of your values, but then you also
Yeah.
have to accept the timing.
Absolutely.
Timing
Mhm.
Absolutely.
times within your control, sometimes it's not. So
Right.
patience and understanding that you could walk right past your husband or wife and then
Mhm.
in another setting, and so timing has to do with the fact of being ready.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
not timing, it's just legitimate timing. And then it's also just, are you ready to date?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned timing. I know for me and my wife, timing was major. I had seen her at a mutual friend's party 6 years before we actually got together, and she was, still married at the time. I had just gotten out of an engagement about a year before, actually less than a year before. So we were
Yeah.
both, going through our own transitions, but by the time we got together, we were in a much better
Yeah.
place for each other.
Yep.
So that timing thing is key. And even for you, when I remember reading your book, when you did meet the man who ultimately became your husband, you were very revealing about what it is that you were looking for, being tired of being out there and just wanting to be with somebody, which usually will scare people off. If it's not the right time for them or if they're not there for that, it
Yeah.
might people will go running like, oh, that's a little bit too much for me right now. I don't know if I'm here for that. But that wasn't the case for you. So tell us about that kind of timing and how you felt comfortable enough to open up to him about what it is that you really wanted and him being receptive to that.
I think Tariq, and you've met my husband.
Hmm.
It was really again like that timing. And I think your story about you and your wife is the perfect story of you already had some foundation that y'all had value alignment,
Hmm.
but y'all were in other relationships, not really like going towards each other. Y'all were living your best lives in other realms. And then y'all came back to each other. And what's really great is that you already had some understanding of each other's values. So when I met my husband, I was had already made what I consider to be the effective dating shift. So I had definitely met men and engaged men and went online and did this project and met all these, great,
Mhm.
not attractive, some very, successful, some not. And my husband came in a space to really help me to understand that regardless of that he was not necessarily like right in front of me, I had to have a plan for
Hmm.
myself set the tone for whomever came across my path. And so if you were not comfortable with the fact that at the time I really was asking hard questions up front, then obviously I have to respect the fact that your journey and my journey at this time does not align. But
True.
the part about having a foundational aspect of how you date effectively includes you don't keep moving your line. You don't
Good
keep,
point.
you kind of have to stand and also respect. that the same way that someone might reject you, you are rejecting someone else.
Mhm.
Just because you don't align at that time, there should not be any kind of anger or frustration towards the other person. That if your journey
That's a good point.
the time, but you don't move your line and you don't make people move their line. You just hope to find a place where you kind of intertwine at the right.
Mhm. Yeah, I know I've ran
Mm,
across that a few times too, where I may
yeah.
meet somebody and reach out to them, like, you wanna go out, and they may be in a relationship with somebody, they may have just gotten out, something might not be a good
Yeah.
time, but then they
Yeah.
circle back around later on.
Yeah.
Hey, it just wasn't a good time. So I didn't take it as rejection, like there's something wrong with me. I recognize the timing of it. They said, "Nah, I don't want to date you. You're ugly." Then that's one thing. I'd step forever. But they were just
Yeah.
like, well, I'm into something else, and cool. I'll let you.
Mm.
I'll let you go. And if you do have the chance to come back around, if I'm still single at the time, then cool. Unfortunately, a lot of people came back around when I got married or on my way to get married. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, that's facts because for men, like your marketability almost goes up when people think that you're off the market. All of a sudden,
Absolutely.
you know, aesthetically, you both of you are very attractive, and
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
acceptable in your own right. Because Tarika shared a lot about you, John, and just hearing.
Thank you.
So you are already kind of checking off boxes. But the reality of it is that for whatever reason, the stars align. Men who are showing their woman respect, particularly a black man, your marketability is almost like you're wearing a glow, walking around, and so more people drawn to you. And your resistance actually is even something that you're trying to be, drawing people in. So it's a little crazy. But also to your point, Tariq, when you said about, somebody said like, oh, you're ugly. I definitely think that people have to, of course, watch the language and how you care about people. I believe in love karma.
Absolutely.
So what you
Yeah.
Correct. But I also believe that what happens a lot of times, men in particular, I'll also speak about women in a second in a different category, when they're not giving real clear feedback because they're so concerned that if I say that you're not my type, or I'm not really interested in you, or I'm not attracted to you, which is really good language to use, that the woman is going to break down, slash her tires, slash her wrists, and they would kind of to me, kind of what I consider to be cowardly moves, just kind of either string them along, not communicate. I don't like the word ghosting. I say abandon the communication. And I think
Mm,
that people, women and men, have to be mature enough to date effectively to understand that feedback is a part of dating.
Mhm.
absolutely.
Constructive feedback, and somebody gives you constructive feedback and then you are like astounded, like they said to you, like, you're not really my type, or I'm not really interested, or I don't feel any energy, and you're so astounded, it's usually because you're not giving constructive feedback.
Mm.
Like
Sure.
going along or you're abandoning communication.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
True,
But
true.
I think that's really deep, and I really appreciate you, sharing that, G. And when you were talking, I was also thinking about, and we love to hear your thoughts about, doing the work on yourself simultaneously as you're dating, right? So one of the things that I think a lot of people don't know, and I thank God for it, and even as a licensed clinician, is that when I met my wife, in addition to being in grad school, going through all of that and the stresses and the ups and downs and the expectations, I was also in the height of my therapeutic journey. Like I myself was in therapy. And I thank God for that because at the end of the day, I became, by the time I met my wife, Crystal, and when we met online or online dating, even before I met her, like I was in a really healthy place to be able to deal with feedback or give feedback and even be emotionally secure, right? And I really do. So the reason why I stress timing is because, you know, as long as you're taking care of yourself, and if you are someone who believes spiritually that things will come your way as you're doing that work, I always, every day when I look at my wife, I thank God because not only was I doing for myself in terms of career, and I think a lot of people get stuck there where I'm doing me, I'm doing a career, but I was also in therapy. I was putting in that work. I was learning and unlearning a lot of the unhealthy things that made me to, when I met her, even in person, she was able to experience a completely different John that had existed. And I think a lot of people have to really give credit to dating doesn't mean that your work on you stops.
Right.
I was able to simultaneously, I actually share with my wife, I want to say the second time we had like hung out, I was like, I'm in therapy. Like I told her straight up, like I'm working, and just the way that she was very open and responsive, and her response was like, yeah, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I really appreciated that, and so I just wanted to underscore and see what your thoughts are, that people shouldn't necessarily stop the ongoing internal process, that journey, just because you're dating, right? There's no such thing as, well, because I'm available and I'm out of this relationship, I'm here and I'm ready. I was actually doing the work. I was actively in therapy. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but I think the audience really needs to understand that that journey of work on yourself never stops, even when you're dating, or heck, even when the relationship starts to become more exclusive. Like, because I was still in that joker for a minute, you know, and it's one of the reasons why my wife and I have a very healthy, successful bond and connection, because people, she didn't stop her work and I didn't stop my work just because we found each other. And I think it's easy for people to stop working because I found that person, or at least I'm finding people who I like. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that, because I've sensed that even with some of my clients over the years.
Well, I mean, again, John, again, I already love you and Crystal's story. Like this, and again, I think that's what people don't want to say, like relationship goals or aspire to, but I do believe that there are models in romantic love, just like there are models certain industries and business. And I think telling your story is what also keeps it a buck and keeps it real, and keep people understanding that just because you and your wife are so in sync and people can see and understand your love, that you're openly sharing, like, oh, I told her like on the first couple of dates about therapy. I think it
Yeah.
comes back to that vulnerability, that is, that word is used often. That's the reason why sometimes people like either misuse it or feel like it's very cliche-ish or it's just a tagline, and it truly is something that has to be a part of a healthy romantic relationship. And as Tariq knows, I referred a lot of my people to him when he was not booked and busy. I feel like a huge part of my vetting process for the clients that I work with was also ensuring that they understood that I'm just not accepting clients just to accept clients. So as mentioned, I'm a social work professional. I had a
Hmm.
time gig. So I'm not saying I was living off of like my author residuals, but I am an author, so I have other interests. I'm also like, at the time earlier on, I was a single mother, and then I was in relationships. So yeah, I'm busy and doing stuff. So I don't want my time wasted, just like I don't want to waste a client's time.
Hmm.
Come to my plate or come to my, my circle, and we're talking, and I really don't feel that you are ready to date effectively
Mm.
because you
Mm.
need to do your work, I am sending you back. Go pick up Tariq's book. Go pick up
Right.
Kelsey Brunson's book. Go, in later time, go pick up my book. Had a whole list of books to say. Oh, if you don't want to do books, okay, well, maybe you should kind of consider some self love, some self work.
Hmm.
List of therapists that I highly recommend that understand where I'm coming from, and I believe you would work well with them. Oh, don't like individual therapy? Well, here goes some groups. Here goes some
Mm.
groups, things that maybe can help you to enhance. And at the end of it, if you didn't want to do any of that, then I'm sending you back to say, go ask the three people who know you best and ask them to give you some raw feedback.
Mm.
Because what I'm seeing in this initial conversation, you're not ready.
Mm.
I think the part that people don't understand is that you might feel that you are ready, but a part of maybe why you're not aligning with someone is that others see you're not ready.
Mm.
You're so focused on what they're doing and not doing that
Mm.
you're not really looking at yourself. And so romantic love is a whole different aspect, because all the goals in the world, hearing from John, and I know Tariq's story about all the things that, he accomplished in his success, all those things are individual. But
Right.
very accomplished. You can be the strong black woman. You can be the accomplished, successful, strong black man. You can have all those things, and you can be genuinely a good person to your friends, to your family, to your colleagues. But romantic love requires you living life with another person.
Mm.
They don't have to accept you. They don't have to see your shine all the time, because you're coming into their world just like you're coming into yours. That's why romantic love is really the hardest love on this
Mm.
earth, because you
Mhm.
control the success,
Mm.
because you can't do it by yourself. You can only
Mm.
Okay.
kind of have a successful romantic love if you and the other person are really engaged, aligned, and thriving and surviving. And it really puts you back to how you become so vulnerable, because just like you were able to finish your dissertation and you
Yeah.
know, clinician and get your degree, or if I wanted to say like, oh, I accomplished my financial goals and I got this house and I got my car,
Mhm.
that was all on me.
Mhm.
The success of my marriage is not on me. It's
Nope.
Yeah.
on Kevin Spriggs. Spriggs is not riding with me and I'm not riding with him. I can't check off the box that I have a successful romantic love because I can't do it by myself.
Yep.
Yep. Right on. Real quick, because before we go, I have one more question. You keep mentioning effective dating, right? What's the difference between effective dating and intentional dating? Or is there a difference? How do you define what effective love is? I mean, effective dating is?
And so I only coined that, Tariq, and so you know a little bit about my program. So I would say they probably do kind of really mirror each other and they complement each other. But effective dating includes, again, like what John just brought up, it's a lot of self work first.
Okay. All
And
right.
basically, when you talk about dating, a lot of times people think like it's a game. To a certain degree, it is a game. It actually can. It shouldn't be something that you feel like, oh, woe is me. I have to find love, or woe is me. I have to date again. If you're even in that posture, then you're already not really probably ready because it should be something that you aspire to. It should be something that you look forward to,
Mm-hmm.
to be eagerly going onto that field to play. But if you have not done your work, it goes back to again, effective dating includes first you have to check yourself, see how your overall well being is. And that isn't just the internal. I do tell people that the reality of it is a part of dating is attraction. And that
Sure.
you cannot fault people that if you are struggling with your aesthetics, if you're struggling with your health, if you're
Mm.
struggling with your body, that
Hygiene.
and your hygiene,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
have a right to say, I want somebody healthy, fit, and really making themselves look their best. I tell people all the time, I don't wake up like this. I have to, do work.
Yeah.
What?
Mm.
On to me. But there are people who wake up with a glow and so forth, and God bless you. But for the
Right.
rest of us, you have to make some work. So I always tell people it starts with you first. And then as you move down, you really have to look at your values, which are basically your rules, and figure out what are your most important things that you cannot, like, let's just say if you say, I want someone, now put it out there, say, I want someone who values education. If that is a value to you, you don't move that line and you don't explain yourself. If
Mm-hmm.
education is valuable to you, you don't move that. So
Right.
basically, you have a plan, you make it work, and you have a strategy, and you're just not walking out just being drawn to someone physically.
Right. Right. Well, thank you so much for that, G. And as we wrap the show up, we like to do what we call the noble truths. And our noble truths are like just highlights, bullet points from our conversation today. So, what are some noble truths? What are some bullet points that you would like to share with the audience today?
I think we just coined one, which is the effective dating. And again, that goes back to not everyone is ready to effective date. If you want to fun dating, you want to just happy dating, carry on. Effective dating is not for everyone. And the other part is that again, self love is not just your manicure, getting your lashes done. For men, getting groomed and getting that beard done. Self love is really about looking at yourself again from that whole ecosystem. Have you been
Hmm.
here? Dentist, you know, how are your finances? How is your relationships with your family? How is your relationship in your community? So self love is really about checking in on your well being, not just about what you look like.
Right on. All right. All right. John, what about for you? What are some of your noble truths for this week?
I think be mindful about the parallel process of dating and taking care of yourself, as G was mentioning, both internal and external. And I think the other one too is don't overlook yet don't underlook the idea of how powerful timing is. Timing plays a critical role in dating and finding someone, and so that's one of the hardest things about life, but it is a big factor. So just pay attention to that.
Okay.
Hmm.
And Tariq, I want to add just one more before you do your last one. Don't just look at people you want to date. Date the people who want to date.
True.
That's a great.
True.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's a
That's
good
a great
point.
point.
That's a really good point. And I would say for me, my noble truth for this week is really look it there are people out there who are doing the work to help you connect with other people. You don't have to do this all on your own. So you have different platforms, you have matchmakers, you have people like G who are out here doing this work. Reach out to them, find out where they are, find out the work that they're doing, see if their work can work for you. Look at their history and see what their track record is of getting people not necessarily towards marriage, because every date isn't supposed to end up in a marriage, but
Right.
just connecting people in a way that allows them to explore the possibilities. So reach out to folks. Make sure that hey, we're about to ask G about how people can reach out to her. So make sure you reach out to someone like G or G herself to get you going in the right direction. That's my noble truth for this week.
Yes, and I definitely seek a good therapist. A matchmaker is one thing, but a therapist is another. So let's just keep that a buck. And so you can find me at GS the Matchmaker on Instagram. That's usually where I'm found all the time.
That's right. And do you have a website or anything too?
Nope, it's just at GS the Matchmaker. I
Okay.
kind of made it very simple, very simple to.
Smart move.
There we go.
Smart move. John,
I know.
What about for you? How can people find out more about what you got going on?
Hey, always, folks, always come check out kingsoftheheart.com. Always doing a lot of great work out there. We have an exciting year ahead of us. Feel free to reach out and see the great work we're doing at the Relationship Counseling Center of Maryland. So that's RCC Maryland, Maryland.com. And I'm always doing a lot of great work nationally around criminal justice reform for Black and brown people out there. So come check us out at your Institute of Justice.
Hold on.
Brother Reek, what are you up to, man? Where can we find you?
Hey, as always, you can find me at kingsoftheheart.com. You can also find me on all streaming platforms as Tyreek Omari or Tyreek Omari Walton, or just go to the Kings of the Heart platform pages. We're everywhere as well. You can find us streaming live on YouTube. You can find us on all the different audio streaming platforms. We're everywhere. You just can find us everywhere. So that's for us. Look we got to wrap it up. G, I really appreciate you coming on today, and everyone make sure you go check out her
Thank
book.
you so much. Yep.
In search of James Evans. Go check it out. Very fun read. You will learn a lot from it. Dr. John, good to see you, brother.
As always, Steve.
We will catch up again soon, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and we will talk to you later. Peace.
Peace.